Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're putting on our land use planning hats to look at an absolute masterstroke of spatial engineering. Imagine a nation deciding to literally redraw its own geography. That's exactly what's happening right now with a colossal $500 billion strategy to expand outward, straight into the Western Desert. This isn't just about pouring a bunch of concrete. This is fundamentally a long-term economic survival plan. It's a total reconquest of territorial sovereignty. So how exactly do you go about completely transforming a country's economic hub from the ground up? Let's find out.
All right, let's kick things off with this statistic that should immediately grab your attention. 90%. Historically, 90% of Egypt's entire population has been squeezed onto just 7% of the nation's landmass, mostly right along the Nile Valley and its delta. As someone who looks at spatial planning all day, I can tell you this is a severe demographic and logistical bottleneck. You literally cannot build a modern economy, let alone attract serious foreign investment, if your entire workforce is suffocating in such a tiny, tiny fraction of your available space. So here is how we're going to break this down today. First, the demographic bottleneck. Then, the Farouk El-Baz corridor, building a seamless logistical chain, conquering the Western Desert, energy and food security, and finally, the true economic return. Section 1. The demographic bottleneck. To really understand the cure here, we first have to deeply understand the disease. And that disease was the historical and spatial suffocation of the Nile Valley. When you compare their old infrastructure to the logistical needs of the last 30 years, honestly, the situation was mathematically destined for disaster. By 2011 and 2012, traffic during peak hours literally crawled at the speed of a walking pedestrian. The entire country was on the verge of becoming a giant open-air parking lot. This suffocation paralyzed national productivity and turned basic daily commutes into an absolute nightmare for citizens, especially for low-income families. So developing a new network, it wasn't a luxury. It was quite literally a matter of life and death for the economy. Section 2. The Farouk El-Baz corridor. And that critical, blinking red emergency brings us to the solution. A brilliant spatial hack designed to pull both the population and industry out westward. It's actually a fascinating story of how a concept comes to life. See, an Egyptian scientist named Dr. Farouk El-Baz proposed this exact development corridor theory way back in the 1990s. But for decades, it just gathered dust in government office drawers. Then, suddenly in August 2014, it was exhumed and fast-tracked at breakneck speed as an aggressive state policy. The core idea is brilliantly simple. Instead of building parallel to the Nile like they had done for thousands of years, they started building massive transversal axes perpendicular to the river, pushing deep into the Western Desert. The ultimate goal? To literally vacuum the population and industry right out of that saturated valley. To actually make this corridor a reality, the engineering execution had to be off the charts. Just look at the staggering contrast. In 150 years of history, dating all the way back to Muhammad Ali, Egypt built a total of 34 bridges over the Nile, over a century and a half. But in just the last 10 years alone, since 2014, they have constructed 38 colossal new transversal access. And we're not talking about simple overpasses here. These are massive arteries, some stretching over 20 kilometers long, connecting east to west without a single interruption. It's wild. Section 3. A seamless logistical chain. Now, pouring asphalt and building roads is one thing, right? But weaving it all into an intelligent, integrated transportation network is where the real magic happens. It creates this perfect domino effect. From a land use perspective, it's just beautiful to watch. Step 1, a new transversal road is built. Step 2, that logically unlocks a brand new industrial city, which often features super attractive free trade zones. Step 3, the goods produced in those zones flow seamlessly to one of 7 newly established dry ports. And finally, Step 4, they are shipped out to the world through one of 15 fully modernized maritime ports. It creates this ironclad logistical chain perfectly designed to capture global commerce and massively boost regional trade. And the raw technical specs of this integration? Jaw-dropping! We're talking about 7,000 kilometers of completed smart roads, fully equipped with intelligent networks to manage freight in real time. Then, to link the whole thing together, there's a 2,700-kilometer high-speed rail network connecting the deep desert directly to the Red Sea and Alexandria. This entire transport integration commands a staggering budget of 2 trillion, yes, with a T, Egyptian pounds. It's financed through a crazy mix of state budgets, sovereign wealth investments, and strategic international partnerships.
Honestly, that's just the baseline required to make sure the country doesn't end up choking on its own growth.
Smack in the middle of this network are absolute marvels of modern technology. Take the Tahia Misr Bridge on the Rod El Farag axis, for example. It is officially recorded as the widest cable-stayed bridge in the world. It perfectly proves the massive leap in engineering muscle required to pull off a strategy like this. These strategic bridges and tunnels are the literal, physical links connecting the old world to this new frontier.
Section 4. Conquering the Western Desert. So what actually happens when you unlock that new frontier? Well, the most crucial takeaway is that this infrastructure isn't just a bunch of concrete. It is a catalyst. It creates rapid urbanization. 25 brand new urban centers have been built, including the completely high-tech fourth-generation smart city of New Elamain. But looking beyond the glitz and the tech, this brings highly tangible benefits to everyday citizens. We're talking modern, dignified housing and public services for low-income families who were previously suffocating in Cairo. Plus, by driving these roads into isolated, remote rural areas, they are bringing in jobs and drastically reducing poverty in communities that were basically completely cut off from the national economy before. Section 5. Energy and food security. Because let's be real, you can't just drop millions of people into the middle of the desert without giving them the resources to survive. To actually feed this booming new population, you have the New Delta and Artificial River Project. It's an epic civil engineering feat aimed at reclaiming 2 million fidans, that's roughly 2 million acres, of pure desert for agriculture. It's a massive, massive blow against food insecurity. And to power these giant industrial cities and farming hubs, Egypt is cementing its energy sovereignty with a future El Daba nuclear power plant. It's designed to pump out 4,800 megawatts of clean, uninterrupted energy. Because as we all know, you definitely can't run a 21st century economy on rolling blackouts.
Section 6. The true economic return.
Okay, let's analyze the real return on investment for this $500 billion endeavor. At a macro level, the whole strategy is basically summed up by this blunt quote. Just put yourself in the shoes of a foreign investor for a second. Have electricity? No. Roads? No. Why would I come to you? It's crude, sure, but it's completely flawless logic. Mega infrastructure isn't some nice-to-have luxury, it's a strict prerequisite. Without world-class logistics and stable energy, literally no global industrialist is going to set up shop in your brand new free trade zones. So this $500 billion spend, it's the necessary bait you need to attract real foreign direct investment. But let's tether those massive macro costs back down to the micro level, back to the everyday citizen, because the tangible benefits there are immediate. By completely eliminating surface intersections with these new bridges and tunnels, commute times across the board have been slashed by 23 to 27%. Less time sitting in traffic means massive national fuel savings, which translates to a spectacular leap in overall national productivity. But perhaps most importantly, it's led to a drastic reduction in fatal accidents on the roads. The daily life of the citizen is just fundamentally safer and way more efficient. So the foundations are poured, the Western Desert is officially waking up, and the map of the country has been permanently redrawn. But all of this leaves us with a pretty provocative question to ponder. How exactly will this newly connected desert landscape, with all its smart roads and high-speed rail, adapt to the unpredictable global supply chain crises of the coming century? Could this massive logistical integration actually be the shield that protects regional trade going forward? Honestly, it's the ultimate challenge of tomorrow, and it absolutely guarantees that this spatial transformation is a story we're all going to be watching very, very closely. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember to always keep questioning the map.